It's almost November. It's a bright sunny day today, though it is breezy. Storm Amy a few weeks ago was considerably more breezy than this, and it's quite astonishing how well the Paulownia and Eucalyptus stood up to that. I have a couple of specific things that I want to say, although I'll do a general update just now, starting with the Paulownia. It's well into autumn, and it's no surprise that these Paulownia are shedding their leaves, starting to become quite rapid now after Storm Amy. The best of them, or this is my best one, has put on perhaps 1.5 meters this year. All of them have done noticeably better. Primarily, I think, because it's been a much drier year. It's also been quite a bit warmer. And this is the first year that they've developed flower buds. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what these look like in the spring. Quite a few of them have flower buds. Very pleasing. Just about every variety has one tree with flower buds. Some of these Nordmacs are starting to thicken nicely in the trunk, so it's possible I'll get some firewood from these. Maybe not next year, maybe in a few years' time. Generally though, I'm growing these for the amusement value. I'll be able to walk underneath a canopy of green during the summer and purple flowers during the spring. Another one down here that definitely had flower buds. Here we go. This is another Nordmax. Let's stand out as is. So, very pleased with how these have done. Fingers crossed for a dry winter, and that will cut down on the slug numbers, and that's definitely a reason why these have done better. And this is a tomentosa. Not sure if it will come out on camera, but these also have flower buds. There you go, and there's a branch here. So just fantastic. Slightly different colour, perhaps slightly different. Well, it's a different variety, so anyway, very pleased. Those that I planted, I haven't done 1 meter. Some of them have done quite well though, and I'm hopeful that all of these will survive the winter, and as I say, providing we get a dry, not too severe, although it doesn't really matter if it's a severe cold winter for Paulownia, it's the wet that affects them the most, which is why they'll never be invasive in Ireland, apart from all the critters and the livestock eating them. Ireland's, the west coast of Ireland in particular, is just too wet for them. Very high hopes for regnans. Storm Amy did scorch some of the foliage, I'll show you that shortly. However, the best of the regnans here seems to have shrugged it off, and it's certainly grown this year. Those that I planted last year, but it would have been late on last year, getting towards possibly even November, December. They've done okay, they're healthy, but they lacked nutrition. One of the big mistakes I made during the past few years, not feeding them enough. So it's taken them a while to establish. So now they are established, they're starting to grow, so next year these should be a lot taller. Definitely Regnans is one I'm confident I'll be able to harvest a considerable amount of firewood from. These are ovata, another very fast growing eucalyptus. These were planted July last year and they were sown at the same time as those Regnans that I've just shown you. However, when they were planted they still had reserves of nutrition, so they established much more quickly. It's quite astonishing just how much impact nutrition has on growth rates. These Regnans, again from the same batch as those I've just shown you, easily 3-4 times the height, because when they were planted they had reserves of nutrition. It's no more sheltered here than, in fact it's less sheltered here than it is over there for the Regnans I've just shown you, so shelter's not a factor. Daisies still flowering this late in the year. It's very exposed on this bank, and some of these Rodwai did get scorched by Storm Amy, though not all of them. This one, as you can see, brown foliage. That one though seems to be doing really well. So I guess it's a question of planting them, hoping they mature, survive to maturity and produce seed, and then you plant the seed from those that are most hardy. This is my sheltered area, and two things that I specifically wanted to talk about were shelter and nutrition. It's very evident in this area that despite the lateness of the year, these hazel are still growing in this sheltered area. They've had lots of nutrition. I replanted the plugs into these polypots with a very, very generous helping of poultry manure. The sequoia, sempervirens, gigantea and metasequoia. Metasequoia don't seem to be shedding their leaves just yet. Not sure if this is metasequoia, if I labelled them or not. It doesn't look like I've labelled them. C'est la vie. These I'd say are gigantea, the Ben Sherman style, and I'd actually say that these are metasequoia. They're definitely not labelled. Anyway, these were doing very poorly until I potted them on. You can see just how poorly they were doing by the brown foliage there. Potted on with, as I say, a very, very generous helping of poultry manure and perhaps a shelter, but I'd say more the feeding for the sequoia, and they're thriving now. So good nutrition can't be underestimated. Likewise, these are Paulownia, and yes, they're losing their leaves, but generally I potted these on earlier in the year with not too generous a helping of poultry manure, but they certainly got fed and they've done just so much better. These are Eucalyptus Coryamba citriodora. It's a real shame that you can't smell these on YouTube because they just smell so strongly of lemon. Even just scraping the leaves there as I'm walking up to show you these hazels. The smell of citrus is strong. Anyway, these are also hazel, and I'd say they're alive. Hopeful they'll come back more strongly next year. When I planted them, I did give them a generous helping of poultry manure, though they were planted later than I potted on those, and they're not as sheltered. These were planted earlier in the year, and yeah, they got some feed, but they're not sheltered, and as you can see, they're losing their leaves. And this is a willow, I think. A willow germinate so readily around here, and they're tough, hardy specimens. Generally I go around with the Fisker's bill hook and take them out using that. Hopefully though, the hazel will come on strongly and outpace them. The 2 rod Y that I had left over, I planted here, and they seem to be doing quite well. Again, copious quantities of poultry manure when these were planted, and I can't remember exactly what type of plant these are. Stefan in Germany sent me these, and they're still growing. Cattle also enjoy shelter, seeking it out on stormy, windy days, and happy livestock, and just the same as happy human beings, do much better than those that are unhappy. So growing trees should be something that the farmers include when they're planning their livestock strategy. Thanks for taking the time, always appreciated.